Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell.
Short background of the author's biography.
Margaret Mitchell, author of Gone with the Wind, is born on November 8, 1900. Margaret Mitchell, author of Gone with the Wind, 1936, is born in Atlanta, Georgia. Mitchell worked as a journalist for the Atlanta Journal for 6 years. She quit after an ankle injury limited her mobility, and she devoted herself to her novel about the South during and after the Civil War. Her tale of Scarlett O'Hara, the shallow Zartin Bell, transformed into a ruthless survivor during the war, became the biggest American publishing sensation of its day. The book sold 1 million copies in its first 6 months in print, 8 million by the time Mitchell died in 1949, and at least 25 million more to date. The book was made into an Oscar-winning movie in 1939. In 1988, Warner Books purchased the rights to a Gone with the Wind sequel. The book, titled Scarlet, was written by Alexandra Pipley and published in 1991. Though not a critical success, the book became a bestseller and was made into a TV miniseries. The movie was criticized for its portrayals of enslaved characters and for whitewashing the horrors of slavery. Scarlett O'Hara, the novel's protagonist. Scarlett is a pretty, coquettish Southern belle who grows up on the Georgia plantation of Tara in the years before the Civil War. Selfish, shrewd, and vain, Scarlett inherits the strong will of her father, Gerald, but also desires to please her well-bred, gentle mother, Ellen. When hardships plague Scarlett, she shoulders the troubles of her family and friends. Scarlett's simultaneously desire for the Southern gentleman Ashley and the opportunistic New Southerner Rhett Butler parallels the South struggles to cling to tradition and still survive in the news era. Rhett Butler, Scarlett's third husband and a dashing, dangerous adventurer and scoundrel, expelled from West Point and disowned by his prominent Charleston family. Rhett becomes an opportunistic blockade runner during the war, emerging as one of the only rich Southern men in Atlanta after the war. Rhett proves himself a loving father and, at times, a caring husband. Though he loves Scarlett, his pride prevents him from showing her his love, and it even leads him to brutality, candid, humorous, and contemptuous of silly social codes. Reed exposes hypocrisy wherever he goes. He represents post-war society, a pragmatic, fast-paced world in which the strong thrive and the weak perish. Wilkes, the handsome, chivalrous, and honorable heir to the 12 Oaks plantation near Tara, Ashley bewitches Scarlett through most of the novel. After the war, Ashley becomes resigned and sad, and he regrets not marrying Scarlett. Committed to his honor and Southern tradition, he cannot adjust to the post-war South. Ashley represents the values and nostalgia of the Old South. Melanie Hamilton Wilkes, the frail, good-hearted wife of Ashley Wilkes. Melanie provokes Scarlett's jealous hatred throughout most of the novel. After the two women suffer together through the Civil War, however, a strong bond forms between them. Eventually, Scarlett understands that Melanie's unflagging love and support has been a source of strength for her. Like Ashley, Melanie embodies the values of the Old South, but in contrast to Ashley's futile dreaming, Melanie faves the world with quiet but powerful inner strength. Gerald O'Hara, Scarlett's father, Gerald is a passionately loyal Confederate who immigrated to America from Ireland as a young man. His strong-willed tendency to drink and selfishness echo in Scarlett's nature. Scarlett also inherits Gerald's love for the South and for his plantation Tara. Ellen O'Hara, Scarlett's mother, and a descendant of the aristocratic Roubiliard family. Ellen marries Gerald and devotes herself to running Tara after her father forbids her love affair with Philip, her cousin. Refined and compassionate, strong and firm, Ellen serves as an impossible ideal for the willful Scarlett. Even after Ellen's death, Scarlett struggles with the competing desires to please her mother and please herself. Scarlett's childhood nurse. Mommy is an old, heavy-set slave who has also nursed to Scarlett's mother, Ellen, loyal and well-versed in certain etiquette. Mommy keeps Scarlet in line. After Ellen's death, Mommy becomes for Scarlet one of the only living reminders of the Old South. Frank Kennedy, Scarlet's weak-willed but kind second husband. Frank described as an old maid in breeches. Scarlet steals him away from her sister Solène so that he will pay the taxes necessary. Charles Hamilton, Melanie's brother and Scarlett's first husband. Charles is a timid and blunt boy for whom Scarlett feels no love. Charles' death early in the war confines Scarlett to the role of widow. Scarlett finds the social expectations surrounding widowhood, that she wear a black veil, for example, and refrain from laughter and pleasure overly restricted. Pittipat Hamilton, Melanie and Charles Hamilton's aunt. Aunt Pittipat is a flighty old maid who faints from shock several times a day. Scarlett lives with Aunt Pittipat for much of her stay in Atlanta. Bonnie Butler, Scarlett's third and last child. Bonnie is the daughter of Rhett Butler, spoiled and strong-willed like her mother. Bonnie elicits utter devotion from Rhett and eventually replaces Scarlett as the center of Rhett's attention. Sulene O'Hara, Scarlett's younger sister. Sulene is a selfish, petty girl who marries Will Benton after Scarlett steals Frank from her. Karen O'Hara, Scarlett's younger sister. Karen is a good-natured girl who turns to religion after the war and joins a convent. India Wilkes, Ashley's called Angela's sister. India never forgives Scarlett for stealing Stuart Tarleton from her during their youth. At one point, India catches Scarlett embracing Ashley and gossip about the sight, causing a great debate among all of Atlanta society. Big Sam, the gigantic slave and foreman of the field hands of Tara. Big Sam saves Scarlett from her attacker in Shantytown. Pork, Gerald O'Hara's first slave. Pork is loyal and devoted to the O'Haras. Prissy, the daughter of Delcy, a slave at 12 Oaks. Prissy is a foolish, lazy young slave prone to telling lies. The late discovery of Prissy's lie that she knows how to assist at childbirth compels Scarlett to deliver Melanie's baby herself, which is one of Scarlett's first significant acts of self-sufficiency. Amy Slattery, a young woman whose poor white family lives in the swamp bottom near Tara. Amy is considered white trash and Scarlett's class-conscious. Gentile society dislikes Amy as does the narrator.
Jonas Wilkerson.
The Yankee overseer of Tara whom Gerald fires for impregnating Amy Slattery. Jonas works for the Freedmen's Bureau after the war and marries Amy. He raises taxes on Tara to try to force out the O'Haras, prompting Scarlett's marriage to Frank Kennedy, an Atlanta prostitute with whom Rhett Butler has a long-term affair. She was the gratitude of the Atlanta Ku Klux Klan by providing them with an alibi for a murder. Will Benton, a one-legged Confederate soldier who becomes a fixture at Tara after the war despite his lack of family or wealth. Will makes Tara a marginally profitable farm. His competence allows Scarlett to move to Atlanta and leave him in charge.
Wade
Hamilton, Scarlett's oldest child, the son of Charles Hamilton, Wade inherits his father's timid and blunt disposition.
Ella Lorena
Scarlett's second
Kennedy.
child, Ella Lorena, is the ugly, silly daughter of Frank Kennedy. The story Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell is set in Clayton County and Atlanta, both in Georgia during the American Civil War and Reconstruction era. The mood is very sympathetic toward the South and the old customs, but avoids sentimentality. The narrator objectively acknowledges the changes brought by the war and the need to accept and live with change, while the theme is that of survival because, as we can see, the protagonist of the story has so much challenge in her life that she must work hard and learn to do things in order to survive. The novel is written an omniscient viewpoint, primarily from Scarlett's perspective but switching to the view of Rhett, Melanie, or Ashley, wherever a part of the story where Scarlett is absent need explaining. Gone with the Wind is the work of Margaret Mitchell. The story begins at a cotton plantation that is located in Georgia in a time just before the Civil War. The news of Ashley and Melanie engaged with Scarlett O'Hara, and so she managed to get Charles to marry her. Charles dies in the army. Melanie goes back to Atlanta after Ashley enlists. She and Pittipat ask Scarlett to go for a visit and stay with them. The war traps her there. Scarlett sees the danger the war poses and plans to go back to Tara via a horse stolen by Rhett. Rhett is not with them on arrival. When they arrive back, Ellen is dead, Karen and Solène were ill, and Gerald has lost his mind. There were no horses, few slaves, and a number of the plantations around them had been razed. Scarlet makes a trip to Atlanta because of raised taxes imposed by victors and realizes that Red had been in person. She offers collateral in the form of herself, and Red admires her for this. Scarlet convinced Frank Kennedy to marry her. His wealthy admires her heartlessness. He even hopes she will use her aggressiveness in business. She's an old outcast in society for her behavior as a widow. Soon she finds a way to generate income by purchasing and managing mills. She gets to a point where she borrows money from Red, which angers Frank. Frank decides to have another child with her, Ella, with the hope that Scarlett's behavior will change. Scarlett is still not content with family only and keeps conducting her business despite dangers. Archie, her bodyguard, abandons her service after seeing she mistreats her ex-convicts. She is aggressively confronted in a shanty town, home to freed slaves, lawbreakers, and prostitutes. Ashley and Frank, who were Ku Klux Klan members, defend her. Frank dies and Ashley injured. Reed saves the rest. Scarlett gets married to Red and becomes friends with the Buggers and Scalawags. She creates an imitation of the South in terms of society using Red's money and the friends she had acquired. Reed is jealous with the connection of Ashley. He battles his feelings for the sake of their daughter named Bonnie. Melanie dies and Scarlett makes the realization that she loves Red instead of Ashley. Bonnie dies and Red blames himself. This makes him pull away from Scarlett.